Yo, we step up in the scene, check your engine is clean. DPF Guys got your ride smoking green. No block, no drag, just pure machine. Come show us your truck, we'll make it pristine. We just wanna know, can your diesel uphold? Bring something dirty, we'll turn it to gold. It's like this, we clean up your flow. Now you're
Hello there, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully there's a few people out there actually tuning us in for our 7 p.m. live Q&A, Sunday, December 15th. I have actually been out of town doing some Thanksgiving travels to see family. I was in Las Vegas for a week, a little bit of vacation, and saw the Grand Canyon. It was super cool. But anyway, welcome everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/DPF Guys, so you don't miss any of our content. If you're catching us someplace other than YouTube, head to youtube.com/DPF Guys and join the action. I'm James from DPF Guys, your go-to diesel after treatment services. Whether you're an owner-operator with one truck, you manage a fleet, or run a repair shop, or a truck dealership, we've got the expertise to keep you running clean and compliant. So we handle everything with a diesel engine, from your light and medium duty pickup trucks to passenger vehicles to RVs to off-road equipment like tractors, skid steers, and even stationary equipment like generators and wood chips. And of course, all of your favorite brands of big truck, your Freightliners and Volvos and Max and Peterbilts and Kenworths and Isuzus and Hinos. Oh my, we take care of all of those. Definitely, if you have any issues, we'd love to help you out. If it has a DPF, we've got you covered. Call us or text us at 404-999-1361 for more info. Of course, that is 404-999-1361, and we'll definitely help you out. Got a question? Drop it in the chat or comment down below. I'll answer live during the session here. Otherwise, I will watch the comments as they come in, and maybe I'll answer if you sneak one to us after we're signed off, because this video will stay posted. If you have any questions, anything pops in your head, type it in the comments in the doodly-doo down below or on the side or wherever it happens to be. Or of course, you can text your questions to us at 404-999-1361 or call us. But normally text is better, because that way, if you catch me when I'm in the middle of something, I can get back to you when I have a minute. Big disclaimer, always consult your mechanic for specific issues. Pricing discussed here is for reference only and not an official quote. So what we got is questions that come in through the week. And let's start with question number 1. And that is from Christina from TikTok. She goes, you have oil sample kits. And we're a big believer in the whole process of kind of incremental maintenance of your truck, hopefully catching big problems, while there's still small problems. So we certainly do have oil sample kits. And pulling an oil sample is easy and inexpensive and really, really informative. And we can send you one for less than $40 and then go through the results with you over the phone. Or if you're in the Atlanta area, you can come in and review the sample with us. I recommend anybody driving a truck gets an oil sample done at least once a year. If you have us pull the sample for you, the cost of the kit and for pulling the sample is under $100, and we'll still help you decipher everything. What does the sample look for? It's looking for mystery metals and minerals in your oil that indicate that you have a problem lurking somewhere that requires more research and diagnosis, or that everything is hunky-dory, which hopefully it is. And the oil sample will show all of that. It's going to look to see, your oil really is like the blood of your truck, and it can show you all sorts of stuff. Again, mystery metals can show you that there's certain wear going on that there shouldn't be. Seeing specific minerals or salts in your oil can indicate that you might be having some coolant leaks, and again, show you the quality of your oil and everything else. Highly recommend getting it done. If you don't want to get it done, frequently, just do it once a year. And man, I tell you what, you can find things going on with your truck that you'll be so grateful that you found out became big issues. Anyway, give us a text or call at 404-999-1361, and we can send you a link to order an oil sample kit, 404-999-1361. There are multiple vendors out there doing oil analysis, but I really believe we found a lab that offers the most complete and accurate analysis. They're all about the same price. But I really think that, we've tried a few of them and they're all pretty good, but this is the one that I really think stands tall among the others. So yes, we do oil samples. And if anybody wants to know about getting oil sample done, 404-999-1361 for your oil sample. Hey, if you haven't clicked that subscribe and like button yet, do that for me. I would really appreciate it. And let's see what number 2 is. Number 2 from Trucky9J from TikTok. He's saying needs help with a 2016 Volvo VNL. He's got a code, reports as P289800. I think he might have given me a couple too many zeros, possibly. Dealer can't look at it for 2 weeks. Okay to drive until then. Again, I don't, I haven't seen your truck, but I would say based upon what that code is, it's kind of indicates a fault within the exhaust gas recirculation or EGR system. And if your code was correct, it's kind of pointing us to an issue related to the EGR valve position sensor circuit range performance, meaning the sensor is not sending a signal within the expected range, potentially affecting the EGR valve's ability to regulate exhaust gas recirculation. So could be an issue with the sensor, could be a stuck EGR valve, which does happen because the soot will build up and kind of gum up things and stuff doesn't open and close like it should. There would be no issue usually with driving until the shop can see you. But if your EGR valve is not operating correctly, you can see a reduced fuel economy potentially, possible lower than normal SCR efficiencies, and also possible issues with regeneration. But I don't think you'll have anything catastrophic go wrong. Just hopefully the truck doesn't get derated or this problem doesn't get worse for you before you can get it in. Definitely get it looked at sooner than later, but I don't think you'll have any issues in the 2 weeks that it'll take for you to get into the shop. So there you go. If you do have any questions about this, what am I going to tell you? Give us a text or a call at 404-999-1361. All right. Question number 3, moving right along here. This is from Dysicus 83. Hello, wanted to inquire about cleaning EGR. Oh, it's an EGR question again. EGR valve for a D13, DD13. How long would it take? An estimated price? Is it something you would take off, or do I take it off and send it to you? So yes, we definitely can clean EGR valves. We do a lot of them. And more often than not, all an EGR valve needs is cleaning after it gets jammed up with carbon. We tear the valve down and dump it into our ultrasonic tank where it's hit with 2,000 watts of ultrasonic gyrations in there. And after it's clean, we lubricate everything, all the moving parts, and reassemble it. And normally this takes a day. We can sometimes get it done the same day, but I prefer to say, hey, give us overnight with it. That way, if we're not rushing. But I always tell us to be a champ and give us overnight. The cost is usually less than $200, and the success rate of cleaning the EGR valve is almost always 100%. They generally, now again, someone's going to prove me wrong here. Generally, EGR valves are pretty reliable. They just get gunked up and need to get cleaned. So what am I going to say? Give us a call or a text at 404-999-1361 if you have an EGR cooler or EGR valve issues we might be able to help you with. We do clean the EGR coolers as well. And if you have an EGR cooler that you have off a truck, or maybe you bought one at the scrapyard and want to find out if you think it's leaking or whatever, usually if time permits, we can test those for leaks. And we'll do that at no charge as a courtesy for, in most cases, if we're not really slammed. So if you have any issues or want to learn more about your EGR cooler, 404-999-1361. Okay, question number 4. This is from Lee Young, 303, also from TikTok. And this is actually, the timing is great on this. I've had some downtime. I've done some reading over the last few weeks, and he's asking if I've seen the 2027 EPA regulations, 50% more reduction in DPF, adding an electric grid heater in the decomposition tube for the SCR. And oh yes, I have. So I've been reading and watching YouTube videos on the 2027 standards. In fact, I'm hoping to get there's a YouTube mechanic that was really getting deep into the rabbit hole of the 2027 standards, and I would love to have him join me on one of these videos. I think that'd be incredibly fun and super beneficial for myself and for you as well. So these 2027 standards, it's kind of funny because I get a lot of comments from people telling me that and they know that the government will be eliminating all this DPF stuff and the trucks can be free to roll coal again. Well, of course that, I'm like, oh man, am I out of a job? But sorry to say to everybody that has the wishful thinking, it is just wishful thinking, because when was the last time you ever saw less regulation from the government? So we are still learning what to expect in 2027, but we do know that NOx emissions are going to have to be reduced even further than what they are right now, which means more sophisticated SCR systems. And that can also mean the grid heater in the decomp tube to more, I would imagine, more efficiently break down the DEF, or allow the DEF to catalyze even more efficiently to break down that NOx even more. I do know that the particulate matter, PM, or soot emissions need to be reduced even further. But most modern DPF systems already meet the standard without any real major changes, thank goodness. And the biggest thing, and this is the one thing that people really don't think about, the biggest thing is that they will be getting even stricter with enforcement. And we'll be doing more cases of what they call joint enforcement with the DOT during DOT inspections, where emissions will be considered part of the overall safety system of a truck. I hate to say it, it's coming. And there are currently 5 companies that I can see that are testing equipment with the EPA for doing on-highway, in-motion detection of deleted or malfunctioning emission systems on trucks. Because I know a lot of people say, well, my truck's deleted, but my state doesn't require emissions testing and that sort of stuff. And many states don't require diesel emissions testing. I happen to be in Georgia, where in my county, they do require emissions on gas vehicles. They do not require emissions on diesel vehicles yet. However, the law is in place, and all it takes is basically a stroke of a pen, and they can turn that back on again. So anyway, so even if a state doesn't do emission systems, the EPA is a federal agency, and they can do this testing outside of what the state or county would do. So the systems that do this testing vary in how they function, but at least one of them can test multiple lanes of traffic at up to 70 miles per hour. And you'll never know you've been sniffed until you get the letter in the mail that says, get it fixed, or pay up to $50,000 in fines for every day your truck with the defeated or malfunctioning emission system is on the road letter. And so how the system works, the one that can test your truck across multiple lanes of traffic at up to 70 miles per hour, it scans a truck's exhaust with a laser beam, and if the beam picks up emissions that it shouldn't be seen, they simply snap your license plate. The computer does a quick check to see if the truck is new enough to need emissions, and if it is, you're toast. There are also new methods of forensic analysis being used in the diagnostics tools from the dealerships and the manufacturers, where the systems will automatically detect and report any tuned ECM where emissions parameters are turned off. And I guess what the good news is that there are over 3 million trucks on the road, so the odds of getting caught are still pretty small, but those odds of getting caught are not tipping in your favor one bit. So if you've got a deleted truck, just be careful out there, and just be ready, because it's really getting to be more and more of the case of not if you'll get caught, but really when you'll get caught. Hey, I don't make the rules. I just learn about them and share what they are. If you have any concerns about your truck and your emission systems, and whether it's working or not working, or if it's giving you trouble, give us a call or a text, 999-1361, and we'll help you out. All right, let's see what we got for question number 5. And anybody watching right now who typed a question in, I'm going to check that in just a minute, and I will get to those questions as well. If anybody's watching at any of the platforms where this is playing, please feel free to type your questions below or aside or wherever the doodly-doo needs to be. All right, number five. From 14_Albert from TikTok. I have a 2016 Freightliner Cascadia with the DD15. I've had an issue since the beginning of the year with the truck throwing codes regarding DPF system def. It would keep throwing NOx sensor codes and other codes, so I replaced the DPF box and filters and sensors and EGR cooler about 3 months ago, and it was running amazing. But then it threw a code again for a NOx sensor, fail 163216, SPN 3216. I don't know what to do now. Also updated software. First of all, this is a really good opportunity for me to speak on the topic of that 2015 Freightliner with the DD13 or DD15 engine and the one box. Now, again, I'm going to say 2015, but by that I'm going to include some of the 2014s, like the end of the year 2014s and the 2016s. And I've probably talked about this 50 or more times before, but if you get a 2015 Freightliner, again, this can be 14, 15, or 16 Freightliner with a Detroit engine and a one box, and the truck runs pretty darn good, bobtail or lightly loaded, heading up heading on a flat road. But the minute you've got 20, 30, 40,000 pounds in the back, you're chugging up an incline, chugging up a grade, suddenly you start to see your engine lights, the dash lights come on, and you're seeing something that goes def quality, SCR efficiency, NOx conversion, or some combination thereof. And I think a lot of people are kind of getting smart about this, but you're tempted to go, well, I'll replace my NOx sensors, or I'll replace my def header, or. And it really comes down to the fact that there was a problem that happened, when the truck was new. It was a software issue that caused the engine to overfuel, and that overfueling over time produced excessive heat downstream in the one box, and that heat damaged or destroyed the SCR, the selective catalytic reducer. That's the part that reduces the NOx. And so I always tell people to call and say, hey, do I need new filters? Do I need this? Do I need, what if I get my one box cleaned? And I just tell them, don't bother. Because if you got a 2015 Freightliner that's giving these specific codes, it's just telling you need a new one box. So anyway, this gentleman, he has a 2015. He replaced his one box. It's had to be a real expensive operation. And I'm thinking that he just simply has a bad inlet NOx sensor. NOx sensors are a bit delicate. They're kind of like a light bulb inside. There's an element, and there's piezoelectric, I don't know how to pronounce that, components, and they're all very delicate and brittle. And I've also noticed that the reman OEM NOx sensors are often prone to more failures, so I recommend going with new and not reman. There's also some really good aftermarket NOx sensors. I have to kind of do a shameless plug for Dynex here. Dynex or DNEX makes an excellent aftermarket NOx sensor, which we've had very good luck with. But you never know with a NOx sensor. If they get dropped during the trip on the way to your truck in the supply chain, it can shorten their lives substantially, or even cause them to fail right out of the box. I'd say that I'd have somebody test the voltages and the resistance on your inlet NOx sensor. And where I realize that's not really a cheapo thing to do, it sounds to me like you just have a bad NOx sensor, or maybe it's a wiring issue. But I think I can understand, just like somebody who had cancer and has gone through treatment for that, they're always going, oh my God, I hope I don't have cancer again. So you went through a very expensive repair on your truck. And now you're like, oh crap, is it happening again? I think you just have a bad NOx sensor. And again, that's something that can happen just because it get dropped on the, somewhere along the road there. The mechanic was putting it in and they dropped it. Or just, basically kind of a premature failure of that thing, or it could be a wiring issue. Just, so and if anybody else out there watching has a 2015 Freightliner Cascadia, we do have brand new one boxes with 3-year warranties if anybody needs one. Hey, and guess what I can tell you? If you need to talk about your one box, give us a text or a call, 404-999-1361, and we will help you out any way that we can. Okay, question number 6. And this is from Mark Bixby, 81, also from TikTok. He said, can you put a DPF filter in a house oven and put it on self-clean? Would it work? First off, and importantly, if you're married and bake a DPF in your oven, you probably won't be married for long. I tell you what, man, it's going to be a stinky, eye-burning experience, to say the least. Secondly, number 2, a self-clean cycle on your house oven will only get it up to maybe 700 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's toasty. That's hot. But it's not hot enough to actually regen a DPF. You need about 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, actually 1,112 degrees to be exact, to properly regen a DPF. So sorry, leave your house oven for baking bread and frozen pizzas, and leave the DPF cleaning to your local DPF guy. Thank you. Trust me, and your wife will thank you as well. If you need to get a hold of your local DPF guy, actually this DPF guy, 404-999-1361. Text us, call us, but probably text us. And we can definitely help you out. Okay, question number 7. From Joseph Keener, also from TikTok. God, I love these TikTok questions. I hope that TikTok doesn't get banned in January, because that would be sad. And I did a video on this. In fact, if you go to the DPF Guys TikTok page, and if you're not subscribed or following us on TikTok, why aren't you? Because there's all sorts of cool stuff there. I'm going to be moving some of these videos in more depth, the longer videos, to YouTube as well. So we'll be going over this. But I did a test, because I get asked all the time, what about platinum def versus regular def? And I got a message here saying maybe I should use platinum when I park the truck for a longer period of time. Last time I parked for 2 to 3 months and lost my sending unit. And I don't think, I haven't noticed really any difference between the two defs that would actually benefit the truck. It wouldn't hurt it, but I don't see there's anything in the def that would actually help you out. Now, maybe, maybe your truck sat long enough where a good chunk of your def actually evaporated, and it can get a little gummy when that happens. But what I would do is, if you had a truck that had been sitting for a while, I would pull a sample and use a def refractometer, which we sell for $20. And I recommend everybody has one in their truck, and just check the def before you fire it up, because it might just be, it might be the situation where you need to drain it and flush it and put new def in it. But I don't think platinum def would have helped, but it wouldn't have hurt it. Wouldn't have hurt. When a truck is parked, things that are normally spinning, running, sloshing around while you drive it can get sticky and fail when you bring the truck back online. Your sending unit may have been on the way out, and the fact that your truck sat for a few months may have just been what pushed it over the edge. But no harm in using the platinum def, but I don't think that would have helped you out much. And if you haven't seen my videos on the platinum def versus regular def, jump over to TikTok and check that out, or subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you'll be notified when that video does become available. If you do have any questions about your def or your def system, 404-999-1361. I've said that a couple of times already. All right, let's go on to number 8. And this is actually not from TikTok. It's from a gentleman named Zons from thetruckersreport.com. And I kind of truncated the question on screen, but I'll read it to you. Looking to purchase a 2015 Freightliner M2 with a Cummins ISB 6.7L engine. Does anyone have any experience with this motor on a medium truck in the long run? I know it's probably fine on pickup trucks and RVs, not hauling that much weight, but just unsure how it will do in a straight truck. So the Freightliner M2 with the Cummins 6.7 is a decent truck, but that 6.7 will almost always need a 6-pack of injectors at almost always exactly 250,000 miles. And again, by almost always, I mean 99.99% of the time. At 250,000 miles, that M2 will start to run really dirty. The engine will start running really dirty and will plug up and or crack your DPF, and will also soot pack your EGR cooler. A used M2 with 250,000 miles is not a bad truck. Just make sure you get it for the right price so that you have $5,000 or $6,000 left over in your pocket. That will allow you to replace the injectors for sure. Probably get the DPF cleaned and the DOC cleaned and inspected, because you might still have a cracked DPF. If you have a cracked DPF, you also need to get that cleaned. A cracked DPF on a truck with a 6.7 engine will often also be throwing codes for the SCR. That doesn't mean your SCR is bad. It just means that soot over time getting through the DPF, which is kind of the filter or the wall that stops the soot from getting further downstream in the exhaust system. That soot can build up in the SCR, poison the SCR. That can be repaired, can be cleaned out. But on a Freightliner M2 with a Cummins 6.7 engine, you're going to be looking at 6-pack of injectors, again, at 250,000 miles. 6-pack of injectors, probably get that EGR cooler clean, definitely get the Delta P sensor out of the EGR pulled and get that thing cleaned out. But I think if you looked at it, you'd see that your EGR valve is really gummed up with carbon. Your EGR cooler is probably pretty jacked up with carbon as well. Get the DOC and DPF cleaned, get the DPF inspected. If it's cracked, replace it. If it's cracked, of course, replace it, like I said, but also look to see if there's any soot in the SCR, the selective catalytic reducer, and get that cleaned out. If you're shopping for a Freightliner M2, or if you've got an M2 that's been giving you trouble, the first thing I would do is look at the tailpipe. Kind of looks like a duckbill. They call it a grass burner or a duckbill. And basically just rub your hand inside that. And if it comes up where your hand is got any soot on it, that would indicate that the DPF is cracked. And if that's the case, doesn't mean you should pass on the truck at all. You just want to make sure that you offer a price for it that will allow you to have the money to get that repaired. So buy an M2 for the right price, put the money into it, and you will be fine. Now, FYI, this doesn't just apply to the Freightliner M2 with the Cummins 6.7 engine. This also applies to the International 4300 with a Cummins 6.7 and the Ford F750 with a 6.7. On all three of those models, the M2, the International 4300, and the Ford F750 with the Cummins, all of these with the Cummins 6.7, 250,000 miles equals a 6-pack of injectors and getting your DOC and DPF cleaned. Potentially, if your DPF is cracked and you can indicate that, would indicate that is some soot on the tailpipe, a new DPF as well. And as they said in Anchorman, 60% of the time, it works every time. Okay, question number 9. All right. He has a 2016 Peterbilt 386 with an ISX. Can SCR boxes be cleaned? Peterbilt is telling me my box is wore out and needs to be replaced. My outlet knock sensors are going bad in 9 months or so. Short answer, yes, the SCR can be cleaned, but it should not need to be cleaned unless you have a cracked DPF letting soot sneak through into the SCR. This is something we talked about with that Freightliner M2. Anytime you have a cracked DPF and a large amount of soot builds up in the SCR, that's called poisoning the SCR. And that layer of soot can interfere with the SCR's ability to catalyze the NOx, which means you might get some SCR codes. Now, he's saying that he's replaced his NOx sensors, like every 9 months. So my question is, why are the NOx sensors going bad? Because if the SCR was going bad and you replace the NOx sensor, logic would tell me that he'd still have a problem. But if he pops new NOx sensors on there and it works fine for months, I would say his SCR is actually okay. So, or they're replacing NOx sensors when they should not be replacing them. But what am I looking at here? Oh, so if you do have soot in your tailpipe and a cracked DPF, that could indicate that your SCR is getting poisoned. So then the question is, why is your DPF cracking? And that could be something upstream. You could have low compression, which would cause incomplete combustion of your diesel fuel. And some of that diesel fuel will sneak through downstream and will keep the system at a high temperature longer than it should be, basically keeping it under a regen almost permanently. And that can cause your DPF to crack or melt. Or you could have injectors that are going bad. But you also, that 2016, I'd have to check to see where the recall cutoff is, but you may also have an SCR that is covered under the Cummins recall. Anytime we have a truck with a Cummins engine that's having SCR issues, especially if it's a bit older, we always tell them, contact Cummins, give them your VIN and your ESN, your engine serial number, and ask if your SCR is under recall. Because if it is under recall, that will get you a new SCR. Also, you want to make sure you don't have any exhaust leaks anywhere, because an exhaust leak can throw the whole system off, especially when it comes to the temperatures that are necessary to properly have all of these components function. If you have an exhaust leak, that hot exhaust is going someplace other than downstream, and that can cause an issue. But if you want help and, we can help dig deeper, give us a text or a call, 404-999-1361, 404-999-1361. Call us or text us, and we prefer a text if you'd be so kind. Okay, last but not least, question number 10. From Just Say Dat from TikTok. And he says, thank you for explanation on DEF. Do you have any input on additives in diesel fuel to prevent pump failure in a 2015 6.6 LML Duramax? Thanks in advance. I love your videos. I'm so touched. I'm blushing. That's super cool. So I'm going to just give... drop my thing. Hold on. I'm going to give the shameless plug to Clean Air Fleet. And I've been a fan of Clean Air Fleet for... since we started using it based upon customer recommendation a couple of years ago. And the more I use it, and the more I see how it works, I am going from, being a fan to an enthusiast to a super enthusiastic fan. So excuse me while I whip this out. So in here is Clean Air Fleet. And this is 1 gallon of the fuel additive. A single gallon will treat 320 gallons of diesel fuel. And there's plenty of additives out there. You might already be using Pittsburgh Power or one of those. If you like it, just keep using it. I mean, I'm not going to try to convince you to do otherwise. But Clean Air Fleet definitely does all the things that your truck really, really appreciates. This particular question, I'll pull it back up on the screen again, was talking about preventing pump failure in the 2015. So, in order to help your high pressure fuel pump, one of the things that Clean Air Fleet does is it adds lubricity to your diesel fuel. And that was actually, lubricity initially was done with the high amount of sulfur in your diesel fuel, which they've made the producers of diesel fuel take out. Now it's ultra low sulfur, so that lubrication is now gone. Using an additive like Clean Air Fleet, you'll get that lubricity back. That'll protect that fuel pump for you. Also, it's going to demulsify the water. It'll drop the water out of your fuel. Water is also the enemy of your fuel pump and your injectors and things like that. It'll get that out. It'll also, the lubricity in the Clean Air Fleet will also help the injectors. And so, yes, it'll definitely help that fuel pump. Plus, you're going to, it'll drop the water out of the fuel. It'll help with that. It will also break up any of the carbon buildup in your fuel system that happens over time. It also boosts the cetane levels in the diesel fuel to where your engine wants it to be versus where it comes off of the pump. There's usually about an 8 to 10 cetane count between what your engine wants and what is provided in the diesel fuel. This helps make that up. It's cold out there, so it does. It's also an anti-gel, so it'll prevent your diesel from gelling, and it'll also encourage better combustion in a kind of a catalytic manner. And the better your fuel combusts, you will end up getting, usually, not always. I can't promise you'll get better fuel economy, but normally you do see a bit of a boost in your fuel economy, which can definitely pay for the additive itself. And by getting better combustion in your fuel system, you have less soot going downstream, which means there's less soot to plug up other stuff like your EGR valve, EGR cooler, and of course your DPF. Now, you will still need to get your DPF clean, but instead of getting it done in 200,000 miles, you might be able to go 400 or 500,000 miles between cleaning. Not good for me, but good for you guys. So, what I recommend for your fuel additive is Clean Air Fleet. If you text the word additive to 404-999-1361, text the word additive to 404-999-1361, and we will send you a link where you can order your first case of 4 gallons. It'll treat over 1,200 gallons of your diesel fuel, and you'll get 10% off. So definitely, text us about your additive, and we can definitely help you out. So there you have it. Your questions, my answers. In fact, let me pull this up on the screen while we finish here. Remember to subscribe to the DPF Guys YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, and find us on TikTok. Thanks for watching, and see you next week. And before I officially sign off, I'm going to check my chats here, and we are clear to go. All right. So thanks so much for watching, and hopefully, if all goes as planned, I will see you next week. If you have any questions in the meantime, don't hesitate to type them down below or text us at 404-999-1361. All right, we're signing off.
Haze, just clear skies ahead with DPF Guys. Your exhaust game's on tread. We got the tools, the skills, the might to get your truck rolling clean into the night. Throttle up, feel that clean airflow. Our service so slick, your ride seals the show.